Hi, I'm Yinka, and this is The Hurt Locker, a podcast where we open a door into men's mental health. Coming up.
I was really into counterculture. I used to run away all the time.
In fact, is Mud your actual surname?
I need to be away from people. I'm quite intense. My personal importance and purpose came from believing in an afterlife, and then when that was taken away, I just completely didn't believe it. And weirdly enough, that was done by a stand-up. My search for a way to end gave me a search for a way to stay.
That's interesting. You're listening to The Hurt Locker, the podcast that opens the door on men's mental health. And for tonight's guest, we have none other than Kev Mud, award-winning comedian. Kev, welcome to The Hurt Locker.
Hey, you all right?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, yeah. Just sitting in my caravan.
Before we started recording, I heard that briefly, but we'll touch on the fact that you live in the caravan, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So welcome to The Hurt Locker. You already said beforehand as well that you're a Leicester City fan, so
Yeah.
Leicester City fans are welcome onto The Hurt Locker as well. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I wasn't always a Leicester City fan. I used to support a little team called Rushden and Diamonds, but they went under. And then I was living in Leicester when they went up. They did the Great Escape, and then they won the Premier League. And I used to DJ once a month on the high street, and it just so happens to coincide with the day that they won the league. So I was DJing on the high street that day. They say two and a bit tons of broken glass were taken off the high street the next day. It was absolutely crazy.
You were in a Bardies party then, no?
No. I'm probably the only one that wasn't. But yeah, I can't go through all that and then not support them. So they found a way in now.
So, Kev, for the benefits of the listeners here on The Hurt Locker, tell us a little bit about Kev Mud. Who is Kev Mud? In fact, is Mud your actual surname?
No. So Mud was my graffiti tag when I was a kid. And he was like muddy talking and stuff. So like going on, rabbiting on. I've got quite a thing for, just like over talking and stuff. Social anxiety is what it turned out to be when I was older. But when I was younger, it was like life of the party, one of them kind of annoying guys who's just got something to say about everything. So just like a tag that got stuck to me. My real name's actually quite embarrassing, so I had to change it. My real name's actually Kevin Perry. Believe it. So I couldn't have that because I was on Facebook and it was just like people just messaging from all different countries. Like, oh, I love your film, mate. It's like, yeah, wicked, yeah, hilarious, bro. So I had to like change it, and then it changed to Kev Mud. But people already kind of knew me as that anyway. But then as soon as it was on Facebook, obviously everyone calls you that then. Although the weird thing is, talking about mental health, I remember talking to my counsellor, and she said one day, she said, so tell me a little bit about Kevin Perry. I was like, oh, Kevin Perry's a boy, this, that, the other, he does this and this. And then we spoke about, sex and religion and family and all the life stuff. Then towards the end of the session, she was like, so tell me a bit about Kev Mud. I was like, oh, he's a bloke who does this, he's a man who does that. And she said, when you said Kevin Perry, you said boy. When I said Kev Mud, you said man. So you've created a persona to separate yourself from your younger life. So, which blew my mind. I was like, get out of my head. But that's an interesting thing that I always look at now. There's not two of me. There's like, I go up, and Perry goes up to a certain point, and then Mud carries on.
That's interesting.
So, yeah.
So what age then did you transform from Perry to Mud?
I think basically is when I left my own town. Like I was brought up in Peterborough, and then you get this chance to reinvent yourself at university. People kind of already knew me a little bit. Grew up fairly religious, to be honest, and quite straight edge, and then by the time I was at uni, I was, doing all the bits. And, I found like a hippie collective and, been on animal rights marches and stuff. And I'd turn into, it was a bit swampy, a bit crusty.
Was that uni days, was that your opportunity to, in the words of our forefathers, to drop out, as it were, tune in?
Yeah, fully. I mean, I've kind of already done that anyway, There's a weird thing. I can't remember who said it, but it's a thing that's always in my head where most of the problems in this world are because people try and make themselves feel important. I can't remember who said it, but it was like, we are in a certain way, but, putting people above, trying to get above people here, there and everywhere. And my personal importance and purpose came from believing in an afterlife and all of this sort of thing. And then when that was taken away, I just completely didn't believe it. And weirdly enough, that was done by a stand-up. That was a guy, George Carlin, and he said something, and it was the last straw on the camel's back. There'd been things happen, and I went from Christian to Muslim to Buddhist, and nothing worked. I was really trying to find it, and I couldn't find it, and that coincided with me going off to uni. And then all of a sudden there was another purpose, which were temporary purposes,
Before we get to uni, tell us a little bit about home life at the time, growing up in Peterborough. Am I correct in understanding or assuming geographically Peterborough's kind of, but not directly, but it's an offshoot, an extension of London? So if people can't live in London, etc., they'll move further out, or about my geography totally wrong there?
Historically, it's kind of been that a little bit like, so estuary English followed up from London up into Peterborough a lot during the war, because we had a lot of evacuees. It was one of the highest places for evacuees. My grandparents and all that talk about growing up with their brothers and sisters. They still, I've only got one grandparent left now, but she still talks fondly of the other evacuees that are still alive in their 90s and stuff. And that was a thing there. You had a lot of people still that now it's turning more into like zone 64 maybe of London. Like it's quite far out, but there's other places people would go to first, like it's not exactly Watford or whatever, but you do have people do it. It's only an hour on the train into London. So people do that. But also there's a lot of, there's been a lot of different cultures come in different times. Like, firstly it was Dutch, which is the Finland, flattest area of Europe, Peterborough. Really flat. My granddad said it's the only place you can watch your dog run away for 4 days, which is a bit I'll put him a set. Yeah, so the Dutch came over, so historically it was that, and then you got a lot of Italians there, a place called Fletton. There was a lot of brickwork, so they came over to the point where you got Italian road names a little bit underneath English names, translations and stuff in certain areas for old signs and stuff. And then we've had a lot of Portuguese, a lot of Polish, a lot of Asian. And when I moved to Leicester, one of the things I liked about Leicester was the multiculturalism had worked a lot better. Like I was never anti-immigration in any way whatsoever. I'm a proper lefty. Like I don't really, I'm not too fan of borders even. But if there is any issues I've got, it's with class division rather than place of birth and culture and stuff. But when I moved to Leicester, it was crazy to see how I think one of the big things was the two universities that are there allowed these two groups to kind of move together. I went to a school in Peterborough that was predominantly Asian. I think it was two-thirds Asian, which was really interesting for me.
In what sense?
I was in a very white area, so growing up, and very white working class. My mum and dad are never, they're not prejudiced in any way whatsoever, but I just hadn't experienced, Peter was very ghettoized. To the point where at one point, honestly, I used to get really fucked up. And one day I woke up and I was absolutely shitting myself because I genuinely thought I'd woken up in Poland. There was Polish newspapers, Polish TV, there was Polish food. The only thing that gave it away is when I went to order something, I was talking to someone, they were speaking in Polish, and I paid with pound coins. And I was like, I was coming too. And I was terrified. The telly was in Polish. But it was maybe 15-minute walk from my house. I just hadn't gone over there because that weren't for me. Not in any kind of, again, no prejudice way, but it's just I don't know what that food is. I don't know what that bar serves. It's not culturally, it's not mine. And then I go to school and, predominantly Asian place. And the weird thing was, obviously, I was at school when 9/11 happened as well. I was in a predominantly Asian school, predominantly Muslim school. That was the only time I ever really saw any real tension. But other than that, there was, there wasn't too much, but there wasn't too much mingling outside of school, really. People kind of looked at themselves. And they moved to Leicester, and it was crazy. It worked. People
worked.
Yeah, it was like I don't really know what why that was, but yeah, that's a thing that I noticed. I remember noticing straight away.
Tell me about family life. Who was in your family? Who was in your setup?
My mum, my dad, 2 sisters, dog, and then from very close geographically as well. Grandparents, both grandparents on one side, both grandparents on the other side, and then an auntie and uncle on both sides with a boy and a girl. Literally like mirror image. Yeah. My mum had a sister, my dad had a brother, man's side, lady side. It was like very like that and very close. I mean, we're actually in 2 weeks' time we're going out for dinner together for the first time in ages. We've only got my grandma left now, but you know, still got brothers and uncles and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was actually like quite it still is. It's a very stable family life. Very working class. Not much money about really. You know, we weren't. You know, we never went hungry or anything. But you know, we always looked after and stuff. But yeah,
yeah. And so as a family, it strikes me as you're talking there that you were reasonably close. Where are you in the pecking order?
I'm the oldest.
Okay. So tell me, what was that like for you? Having 2 sisters to look after or being the responsible one, etc., etc.?
Yeah, I mean, neither of those 2 things really happened. Like, basically what was, them two teamed up, and they're still a team now. They shared a bedroom. It's only when I basically left that they got one each sort of thing. And they were really close. They still are, you know, they go on trips and things. And it's not that there's any dislike there whatsoever. You know, they're both lovely people, just into massively different things. Growing up, you know, I was really into counterculture. I used to run away all the time. And they were both quite homely and like staying in and, you know.
How old were you when you first ran away?
11.
What was your aim? What was your purpose in running away?
Well, see, like when I was like 4 or 5, I ran away just because, you know, like a kid did. I just wasn't watched, so I went. But when I was like 11 or 12, it was to go off and buy a hat that I saw in town that they wouldn't let me go and buy. But I managed to find the money and like run into town. It was just a bit of defiance, really. And then after that, it got to a point where I was running away as kind of escapism. Because as nice as it is having that close family, I think sometimes when people... I used to think, why am I so sad when my friends... all of their sadness when I was growing up seemed to stem from family problems, and I didn't have that. But I think when we see, like, I just think sometimes the closeness was too much. I needed space, which is why I live in a caravan in the middle of nowhere now, I think, because I need to be away from people. Like, I like dipping in, and I talk to my mum and dad every day. I spoke to them earlier. I'm going to talk to them again later. But I like distance from people in general, not just my family. So I used to run away all the time.
Can I share me now?
Yeah.
When you spoke about that sadness, that kind of plucked at my heartstrings. You know, you picked up on something at a very young age.
Yeah. I think I've always been sad. When I was younger, I realized, like, you're given this Disneyfication of life. You know, I could say it with a lot of stuff from a young age. You know, you've got this Disneyfication of relationships and Disneyfication of purpose and of life and everything. And, you know, there's one for you. There's someone out there. There might not be. Actually, might not be. And the purpose in it, you might not have one. You might not find that, you know. And I had that with and also like happiness. Happiness is the end goal. I genuinely think for some people, if we're talking real, I felt like, and I still do sometimes, that sadness is the default. I'm not on about like massive amounts of like, you know, like being completely heartbroken every day and everything, although, you know, you go through that as well. But just this kind of, you know, this kind of negativity, this life be getting hard for you. And that contentment is a temporary phase to be achieved is something that I felt from a young age, I think, rather than something that life is, you know, this kind of default given to you. Life is, you know, get content. I think that's where my issue with class comes from, because I see a lot of the people who do achieve long-term contentment didn't kind of earn it. It's not a meritocracy. They're kind of given it. And good luck to them. It's just like, can you notice that some of us haven't been given that?
Does that make you jealous or envious?
It's not necessarily. I mean, it was, but now it's more of a thing where it's like it's a real dislike of the injustice. Like I live, in paradise. Actually, I'm between two beaches on a cliff top in Cornwall. But for 4 years, I've been a suicide and drug worker with the homeless. Told there's nowhere for them to live. Then when I come back to my caravan, there's a full 360-degree view of empty fields, and you think, what? And then my village down in the way, St Mary's, 54 or 56% empty now in the winter because of second homes. And it's that. So it's not just based on myself. It's like a real fury with the whole thing. And it's and an annoyance because it's not difficult, guys. Like the resources are here.
Absolutely.
Like it's like, what are we doing? And I just that's another reason I kind of want to be away from it. I don't feel like I get it. Like I don't understand why it's kind of how it is. And every element of doing that annoys me. Like, seeing all of this stuff, it kind of annoys me. So yeah, that's been an issue in my comedy a little bit because it's very divisive, because it sounds like it's a blaming thing. The same thing when you talk about male privilege and white privilege, people get all their hankers up and it's like, no, you don't understand it. Like, I think it's not that you've done something wrong. It's that there's a systematic thing in place here. And when I talk about class as well, which is a big thing in my stand-up, some people get their hankers up, but I've learned how to kind of get around that a little bit now.
Okay. You spoke previously earlier on about foregoing religion.
Yeah.
Was religion a case of, for you, the household, going to church every Sunday? Or I'm praying by your bed every day, or praying at meal times?
Yeah, I used to go. We didn't really do it at meal times, really, but I used to go to. I used to actually go to church twice a week. This wasn't constantly, but towards the end, I got to a point where I was going to church twice a week, and I'd also go to the vicarage twice a week. So for like readings and conversations and stuff. And yeah, I was like, it was really a big thing for me. I remember reading things like, reading in the Bible, it was Church of England, there was stuff about the monarch in there to protect the monarch and things. I'm thinking, but we're not getting protected. My mum and dad aren't getting protected. I'm not getting protected. The hell is all this about? Like, why is this a thing? And there was a thing that George Carlin said. I was riding around, like I was one of these like guys who I was still religious, but I found, an excuse as to why God would be fine with me getting completely stoned all the time. And like all this sort of stuff, like, no, it'll be fine. He knows what I'm like. And I found this abandoned pub with my mate Nige, and we went into there because it was raining, and it'd been turned into a community centre by a load of old hippies, and they had George Carlin up on the screen in there. And I remember he's talking about liars and solicitors and stuff, and then he goes on to the clergy, and he says, think about it, they've convinced people that there's an invisible man living in the sky, and he's got a list of 10 things he doesn't want you to do, and if you break any of these 10 rules, he's got a place full of fire and burning and pain and torture where he's going to send you to beg and scream and cry for an ever and ever and ever until the end of time. Well, he loves you. And I was like, oh my God, it doesn't make sense. I remember my mouth being open like a cartoon. It's the first time I'd ever been like, and it just, and as much as that was a big thing for me, everything crumbled away at that point. Purpose had been lost. If life's temporary, what's the point in the whole thing? Like, all that sort of thing. Like, just the neurons weren't working anymore.
Oh, we weren't working in that conditioned way they were supposed to be working.
Yeah.
Did you because of your exposure, but I'm assuming even before the introduction of George Carlin, you were always curious, you were inquisitive, you had questions.
Yeah, I think it makes it worse, because I think if you're curious and inquisitive and you've been brought up slightly religious, or even, quite religious. I mean, I was going to be a vicar. Like, I wanted to be a vicar. You were always, it kind of gets you deeper into it. It's not that it gives you distance, it's that it does both. You get distance and connection, because you connect with the bits that make sense, do unto others as you expect to be done unto you. and all that sort of stuff. And the whole kind of like, gay people are immoral. You're like, but my friends, like, how it really doesn't. So you really agree with someone, you really don't with others. It becomes this weird kind of thing. I mean, I was really curious when I was young. I remember my mum and dad telling me all these stories. I remember one time at church, they said, like, and I was very confident. Like, I remember during Christingle, I was told to be quiet because baby Jesus was asleep. As soon as the priest started talking, I shouted out, "Oi, be quiet, baby Jesus is asleep," And then there was another time where I shouted out, he was saying this stuff. And for me, it was the same as when you're at school and you're being read a story from a book. You can ask, "Miss, I don't get this." I was doing the same in in church. You'd like to see little questions like, was Christ Jesus' last name? Or was it Nazareth? Like, what was it? Was it mum and dad, Mr. and Mrs. Nazareth? Was it Mr. and Mrs. Christ? And this is like 4 years old. And I've always had this really inquisitive mind, but why, but how, but where, but who?
Did people try to drum that out of you? Did people try to?
My mum and dad. But they did at school. At school, I had to sit in the corridor all the time because I wouldn't stop asking questions and talking. So I was isolated from a young age. Like, I had to go and sit in corridors and things.
That must have had an impact on you.
Oh, hugely. Like, they weren't nice at all. I remember one time, like really young, like year 2 or something, I remember when we need to go to the toilet. And looking back on it now, again, it was an anxious thing, I think. But we just had lunch. I need to go to the toilet. And the teacher said, "I can go to the toilet, but I lose one of my little points, little merit points you get in class." And I didn't have any. They hadn't given me any. So she said in front of everyone, I had to pick someone to take a point off. So I had to pick someone in class to take a point off. And there was another teacher who she said she, didn't like kids and whatever. There was a year and a bit in school where I wasn't there because I was in hospital. So I was having operations constantly, all the time. I wasn't like well. So yeah, I was felt very other a lot of the time.
That's a great word, other.
Yeah, other. Like now I've found the balance because I don't think I want to be, like I always worried about like why I haven't got a life like everyone else. I talk to people, it's just like, how's your kids? And they're like, "Mate, they're a nightmare. I can't get to sleep." How's your husband or your wife? It's like, I can't look at them. They're annoying me. So I'm probably dodged a bullet here, really. But on the other hand, I don't want to be completely isolated. So this living in a caravan and being able to go and see people as and when feels like a nice balance.
Don't you crave companionship?
Yeah, I do a lot. Yeah, but I feel really, I'm quite intense. So, like, I do crave companionship a lot, but I just see myself as just in a current inconvenience. John Steinbeck said that in society we all see ourselves as temporarily inconvenienced millionaires. That's what keeps capitalism going. And I see that in the same way in a romantic sense, just a temporarily inconvenienced long-term husband or wife or partner. Like, that's why I am. But I've got a few things I'm trying to sort out at the moment. Like, basically, when I moved here, I wanted to include myself in. Like, I'd not been very well. I'd had a bit of a weird time of it.
When you talk about doing yourself, Ben, you are talking about suicide.
Yeah. Like, I was so to the point where the first few times it was really scary because I didn't know what I was going through. Then after that, it became something where I was like, right, this is a plan that's at the back of my head. And some people will see it as it's weird because when you get, I've been working with people with suicide and stuff as well. And it's like the people who judge them are people who don't have the same, there's a lot that you don't understand about it, Like when I got to the point where I was here, it wasn't that I was in like constant like sadness and throes of massive depression. Like depression has always been constantly there. It's always been there every single day, every second. But you deal with it and you have your ups and your downs and your highs and your lows and stuff. But when I was talking about suicide in this regard, it's like, somewhere with an easy escape. Like I didn't move to the cliffs on purpose, but it was as soon as I knew where I was moving to, it was like, right, that's handy. It was, wanting to find somewhere to kind of, just having that escape. Like the thing that I always would hate is like, I'm scared of certain deaths, but I'm also scared of certain life in a weird way. Like, I wanted to be able to get out of it. I felt completely out of control. And suicide is that, it gives you that element of control if you have that as a plan. The weird thing is here, when I found the cliff that I was going to jump off, I went down to look at it from the bottom. I was like, oh, I'm going to find a little boat track to go down. And when I got down the bottom there, it's right off the edge of my field. There's a rock pool down there that's filled up by a waterfall, like full of starfish that no one really gets to. But you don't really notice there. You can't see it from the land, and it fills up and then sips out into the sea, and it's just like amazing. And that one area of like complete solitude kind of gave me a bit of strength. So my search for a way to end gave me a search for a way to stay in a weird way.
Yeah. A protective factor?
Yeah. So it's like I know if I go down there, no one's going to know I'm there, and it becomes this little hiding spot. And I think that's for some people. I don't know. I don't want to talk to everyone for everyone in terms of suicide, but for me, one element was it was like a forever hiding place. Really, it's kind of how I would look at it.
You've touched on suicide now, and you spoke about depression.
Yeah.
You've been formally diagnosed.
Yeah, I've been formally diagnosed with depression, loads,
How long ago?
15 years old. I'm now 37, 38. Anxiety, ADHD, OCD, currently going through the autism thing. What is it called? Oh, I've got a few things. SID, sensory, I can't even bloody remember it. There's been so many, I can't remember them. Got one for every letter of the alphabet. I've got another one which is like an anti-authority.
Oppositional defiance?
Yeah, oppositional defiance disorder, yeah. So I've got oppositional defiance disorder, SID, sensory. It's about not being able to, like, my sensing, I've got sensory kind of things I've been diagnosed with as well. But I think a lot of the time now, what I'm doing now, like when I got here, which was a bloody whirlwind, ending up here was never the plan. But when I ended up here, it allowed me time to, to think about things like I haven't drank or done that. This is my only thing, cigarettes. I'm really bad with it, but I don't do like drinking or drugs. Like, haven't done that for 4 years. Apart from I did skip trip up on both of them accidentally, very close to each other recently. Before a gig, I picked up my mate's Jack Daniels and Coke completely waxed and was next to my Coke, necked it. So, I didn't like it. I don't like Jack Daniels anyway, even when I'm drinking, but that was mad. And then when I was at Glastonbury, I thought I was being sneaky by stealing a little bit of food from the stage I was working on, and it turned out that I just thought they were brownies. But
come on, you were in Glastonbury. Come on.
I know, exactly, yeah. She just had them out, and I thought she wouldn't have them out. But yeah, I was, there's worse places to be, but, luckily I was 3 or 4 years in, but that was all my fault. That was all my fault. But yeah, I've been off all that, and being out here has allowed me time to kind of settle, and now I'm starting to feel like I need to look at the reasons why I'm feeling the way I am and start tackling them rather than just covering them in either drink or drugs or prescription drugs.
Okay.
So actually start tackling them.
So you've been sober, aside from the mud cakes, for about, 4 years?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's gonna be. So when was it? It was 3 years. It will be soon. Yeah, it'll be 3 years soon because it was the 28th of December. Actually, 28th of December 2001.
And has that felt being sober in that time, not picking up?
It's felt amazing, but just socially, it's a nightmare socially.
Why?
But other than that, because of that, like everyone else is just always getting on it. And
yeah, and I'm not being smug here, but sometimes doesn't it feel great to just observe?
Oh yeah, I feel so much better in every way. It's just I wish that everyone else would jump over. Like I don't go around preaching or anything, but it's like, guys, like, instead of honestly, like where I live, it's absolutely gorgeous. We've got lighthouses, shipwrecks, all this sort of stuff. And then it's everyone's paying £7 a pint for like a lager to go sit in the bloody beer garden around the car park in the village. You know, so what's everyone doing? Like, can't we go out and do something? Why don't we fall asleep on the beach? Take some music out there and stuff. You know, do a bit of thinking and things. Which is why I really like now being in a creative environment as well. Because, you know, I'm now, you know, surrounded by people who are a bit creative, and it's a big part of my life as well.
So I suppose in a lot of ways you've been able to look back and that through a long period of time you were self-medicating.
Oh yeah, fully.
To
I think everyone else is pretty much.
to escape you or to escape the world that we inhabit.
Yeah, for sure, to escape me. Yeah, but to escape me, I mean, I remember my girlfriend, like, coming in, this like nice girlfriend, Lithuanian girl. She was lovely. She really helped me out. We lived together, but we had separate bedrooms. And she said to me at one point, she said, "Do you ever feel bad, like, when I have to, like, leave the conversation a bit, when you're being a bit, like, manic and over talking and stuff, and it's getting a bit much for me? Hope you don't feel bad." And I said, "I don't feel bad. But what you got to remember is you get to leave the room. Like, I'm stuck in the room. Like, I'm here the whole time. Like, I can't get away from it. I'm not just over talking to you, over talking to me. I want to stop, but I'm anxious and I can't do anything. I don't know what, you know, I don't know what's expected of me. I don't know what I'm meant to be, you know, whether I'm meant to shut up, whether there's men they're meant to be silenced, whether you like me, whether you don't like me. There's all this panic all the time. And, you know, you leaving, you get to leave that behind. I'm just there constantly all the time, still with it now, you know.
Does that feel, for me, listening to you talk, it feels kind of scary in a lot of ways?
Oh yeah, life's really scary. Like, I'm always scared I'm like constantly worried about stuff. Like, I remember this one time where I wasn't worried for about 8 or 9 seconds. And I remember I was like 16. I was just going into that weird, like, summer holiday that you have, which is like the long one because you've got your exams as well.
Yeah.
Thinking this is probably the longest amount of time that I'm going to have no responsibilities for. Like, enjoy it. And I remember laying down on my bed with my window open, the wind blowing through on the sunny day. It was lovely. Like, not thinking of anything. And then all of a sudden you could hear someone fighting down the street. Like, really rough street I grew up on. My front teeth are fake. Like, I got hit up, smashed out with a brick when I was like 17. I've got a knife mark on my back. I've got a cut on my leg. Yeah, that mad place growing up. You could hear like dogs being set on people when you go out to play football. It's a massive like traveller site, and you'd hear dogs being set on people sometimes and things like that. Like, mad place, crazy. So yeah, even that was like a few seconds. Oh, for fuck's sake! No, it just yeah, I'm in constant fight or flight. Thing is, I found a way to like flight.
Tell me about uni and joining in on the counterculture and foregoing religion.
Well, I basically, when I first got there, I was still semi-Buddhist, really. So I'd still go to I'd go to meetings and stuff at this monastery, where it was a house, but it turned the lounge into this thing. But it, you know, all intents and purposes. And but yeah, that soon went. But also, I went when I was 22.
Okay.
So everyone else was 18, and I very quickly fell into a really nice relationship for a year with this girl, and she gave me real stability and stuff. And she was my first proper girlfriend who was like really nice to me. And then as I moved forward, I was doing radio basically, and which is a weird thing to have done, but it makes sense because I always used to record stuff. Even when I was homeless, I used to record stuff and things. But because I'm not very good at reading and writing and stuff. But when I was there, I set up this thing called the Mud Collective, and we set up a radio station, a record label, like an online record label. We did club night every week, and it got to the point where that was more important to me than uni. I learned a lot at that point. And also I learned a lot about valuing myself in a weird way, but through other people. I didn't value myself through myself.
Okay, can I ask you the question? You started uni, you were a bit older, 4 years older than the average undergraduate. You get into a relationship that lasts for about a year. Did that relationship end because of you? Did you push that person away?
I'd say so. I'd say it got a bit, I weren't ready. I weren't ready for a long-term relationship. Like, I can't really remember, but I remember it ended messy. Like, I remember as well, at one point, I broke a toe eventually on my left foot because I remember I went round to walk past her house after split up and her front tire was flat on her car. And I remember her coming out and I just knocked on the door and said, "Your tire's flat. I just thought I'd let you know." And she thought that I'd like flattened the tire. And for someone to think something like that about me, and I remember going around the corner and being like, "I can't believe you'd think that." And I hadn't done it. I genuinely, it really hurt. So I went around the corner and just like booted this wall out of frustration. And then all of a sudden I had a broken toe. I was like, brilliant. Yeah, wicked. Like really dumb stuff. Like I don't think apart from like occasionally standing up for myself at school with bullies, and that was very rarely. I've never hit anyone. There's only one time I've actually hit anyone as an adult, and it was when I was DJing at Vodka Revs in Leicester. I went to the toilet with a long song. I put on was it Michael Jackson Never Stops to Get Enough on. It goes on for ages. You have a piss and a cigarette. I remember putting that on, and some guy came barging into the toilet. I had a tie-dye top on, and he was like, "I fucking hate hippies," and started punching me. And I remember turning around and headbutting him. And then I immediately apologised profusely. I did it as a defence mechanism. I was getting punched in the head. And I apologised profusely. Weirdly enough, a few years later, I'm sitting opposite him. I didn't know it was him at the Gene Wilder Tyson Fury fight, watching it in the pub. Where Tyson Fury just sits up out of nowhere. And we were talking, and he goes, "You were that guy." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "You like headbutted me, you broke my nose." And he actually quit drinking that day because I've got a magic head. So the only time it has happened, I've been very lucky. The only time it has happened, actually had weirdly a positive outcome in the end. What had happened apparently was his mum had died that week, and he just was trying to remind me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just in the wrong place. But he was proper attacking me. Like, he smashed my phone, ripped my shirt, and I had my penis in my hands. I was having a piss. It was shit of all times. It was horrible. But yeah, I've been battered about quite a bit when I was younger. One of the ways I got around that is I used that to my advantage. So I used to hang around with skateboarders and stuff, and I'm in quite a few like skateboard videos from when I was younger. I couldn't skate, but I'd be the crazy one that would be in like a shopping trolley that they'd like chuck off a small building or whatever with me in it, and down and fall, whatever. I'd be doing crazy things, like that. I'd jump off a bridge into the river, just completely careless. But that's fine.
It's funny. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to fill that space then. But I just saw the way you were reflecting, looking back at.
Yeah.
Were you looking back at Kevin Perry then? It felt like.
Yeah.
It felt like.
Yeah. I am, yeah. At that point. Yeah, it's weird, really, looking back at that. I do look back a fair bit. I mean, I like being both of them, but it's just that one there was. This one's sad and that one was numb. You know what I mean? And there's positives in both and negatives in both. Like at least there's sadness I've always thought like if you could go up to someone who's dead and say to them, "Hey, do you want another day? It's going to be really sad, but do you want another day?" They'd go, "Yeah." Like it's feeling something at least, like.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
I remember I was actually, in my head, the thing that changed it, went after the religion thing, I remember thinking, what's the point in living? And I couldn't ever find it. And so I was thinking all philosophically, and then one day I just typed it into Reddit. And I typed in, what's the point in living? How do I respond to this? And someone put as an answer, what's the point in dying? I was like, oh, fuck.
Touché.
It's a big thing for me now because when I started doing stand-up, I was talking about being homeless and stuff. On and off for quite, like, so if I added it all up together, like sleeping outside and stuff, I reckon it's coming up to 2.5 to 3 years. But that was in blocks and bumps. That was me running away and hiding and stuff. So,
Sorry to butt in, but running away from, hiding away from what?
so basically, my first time I tried to do myself in, when it didn't work out, I'd left notes and everything everywhere, and the police found me. And then it weren't my fault it didn't happen, basically. I did really want to do it, but there was like, it just didn't work, basically. And then the police found me, and instead of helping me, because one of my suicide notes was a text message, which caused distress, they arrested me and charged me with misuse of communications under Misuse of Communications Act. So I got a £75 fine and a criminal record. And that was really...
Whoa, what other you got? Okay.
And at the same time, I was having to deal with my entire family having found these notes. So I was already used to kind of running away and getting stoned and stuff because I couldn't really do that at home. You know, like it wasn't like, you know, they're all still quite, you know, they're very sweet, quaint family really still. But, you know, that's just how it worked. And then it became a thing for me just to be able to kind of like run away. And my best mate was homeless. He still is, like, he's Hispanic. And, you know, I kind of wanted to know what it was like for him. So it was like a way in. And then as soon as I'd broken the seal, like when you're homeless, I think on your first time you drink cider by the bins, it's depressing and embarrassing. On the third time, it's Tuesday. Yeah, it's just a normal fucking whatever. And it's the same with like going homeless. Like people think about being out on the street or whatever. But my go-to place was Covent Garden.
Okay.
I'd find a way going down there. And, you know, because weirdly you can be around a lot of people in Covent Garden, but no one's looking at you because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
You fade into the background. It's like watching TV while being on it. It's a bit weird. You know, I was just an extra the entire time. So that was my kind of thing. I'd run away. And this was me running away, this caravan, but this was with a bit of money. I ran away with a bit of money. Not a lot, but enough to be able to run away cleverly.
Yeah. Ease yourself without begging, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And the weird thing was I was living with that Lithuanian girl, and then that didn't work out basically. Just before lockdown. Still good terms and everything, but she was like, love my life at that point, but also logistically half my rent. So yeah, I was always had to move out, and I went to Gumtree and moved in with these random people during lockdown, and it ended up being a crack house, which I didn't know about. They was all doing crack, so I was like locked in during COVID in this crack house. They were smoking crack and watching Poirot every day. And yeah, mad. And I was just in this room, like smoking weed, getting paranoid. And genuine true story, I put a rant up on Facebook, which is always a sign of good mental health. But I put a rant up about the fact that the economy was meant to be there to be able to help people, but people are being thrown at the economy here. You know, there was these two old Asian guys who worked in a shop opposite my house, and they were terrified about going into work, but they had to, because their option was go into work and probably get... Leicester was the worst place in Europe at this point for COVID deaths. It was either go into work and possibly die, or don't go into work and be homeless. And then my thing got picked up by The Guardian, and I ended up becoming an undercover reporter for The Guardian during lockdown. And I broke a story about a company called Boohoo, and it helped take 1.5 billion off their share price. It was on all the front papers and everything. And when I got paid money for that, it was a thing against modern slavery. When I got paid money for that, I bought a caravan and just ran away. And ended up down here, which is where I'd done a bit of summer work and stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm now living here as a comedian because I quit drinking and I started like writing. The doctor told me to write and stuff. And then I went out and performed my poems, and people laughed at the bits in the middle. And then bit by bit, got invited to talk at a few things around Cornwall and stuff. And within about 3 or 4 months from me starting doing stand-up, I got to the final of the British Comedian of the Year, which was at the Comedy Store in Covent Garden, just outside of Covent Garden. and I was performing in there, whereas a few years before I was getting told off for begging in the queue.
Absolutely.
So it was weird, kind of.
What was that being noticed, winning awards, being celebrated, as it were?
It's a bit weird, really, because you get celebrated, but it's a bit of a snake pit, the actual industry. You know what I mean? It's like, again, people really trying to make out, like that they're important. I think we're important as a whole, and we do have our important elements individually, but there's no above or below anyone sort of thing, I know there's obviously people who are better than other people and this and that, but I've never said I'm any good. I just entered some competitions, won them, and made a website. Like, that's all I've done. I've not gone around telling people I'm the best or anything, and then you get, so there's a lot of pressure when you win those awards first time round, because all of a sudden you've got to live up to them. I never said anything. It was other people that voted for me. I just went in. They liked it. Have a word with them. Fucking mad. So sometimes, but now I'm in a really comfortable position because it really mattered to me at the start. Now I'm in a weird situation where I was working as a suicide worker and an addiction worker, and then doing this. And then I was in a really bad car crash last year, and I ended up losing my other job because of it. Really affected my mental health. I had to get work, sent me to counselling and stuff. And now I'm in a situation where my body's buggered. My head was all over the place. The first Christmas, that was October, in Christmas, I didn't tell my family this, but I was on the cancer pathway. They thought I had cancer, throat cancer. So I quit smoking, and all the way through Christmas, I was on the cancer pathway, thinking I had cancer. Then I went in on the 5th of January, and it turned out to be GERD, which was acid reflux through stress. So it'd been, as I've been sleeping, it's been eating away at my throat and stuff. So I went in thinking I got cancer, and I literally came out with a prescription for Gaviscon. But the entire Christmas, I was like, this is the last one. This is it. I'm fucking done. So I've had all this sort of stuff happen. So I ended up having to quit that job, and it didn't do very well. And, everything kind of started falling away a little bit. I've just managed to kind of grasp on. The people who look at me and say, you're a stand-up comedian, you're a professional stand-up. It's amazing. There's 2 ways of becoming a professional stand-up comedian. One of them is being good enough to be a professional stand-up comedian, and the other one is losing your other job. And I would say I'm halfway between the 2 of them. I would say I'm not fully there yet because I've only been a few years in. But also it is my only way of making money at the moment. There's no other work down here because I crashed into a drink. It was a drink driver that smashed into us. Wiped out 4 cars, and she got a £200 fine, and a lot of us have lost loads more than that sort of thing. So that really affected me, and stand-up's kind of been the only thing that I've had since then. But I'm going all over the place. I'm at the Isle of Wight next week, and doing a lot of the South Coast week. Last week I was in Newcastle and stuff. It don't pay what people think it pays, I'll go, play the gig in Newcastle or whatever up that way, gave me 200 or 250, come out 200 or 250 quid. Glad you're taking your fuel out, getting up there and back from Cornwall.
There's not much change there then, is there?
No, exactly. But you still get, you're still doing a professional, you're still a professional comedian at that point. I had a load of other gigs booked in up there. They got pulled, not my gigs, but they were I was on compilation shows and stuff and circuit gigs. The venue changed and something else and blah, blah, and it's really hard for me to get other gigs up there because I'm so far away. I don't know people. So I've said yes to one gig, doing the same thing with the Isle of Wight now. I was meant to have a gig in Southampton and Portsmouth. They're falling by the wayside, so now I'm going into the Isle of Wight with no other journey. But I'm making it work, and it's giving me purpose. It's allowing me to communicate with people. People finally want to hear stuff. Yeah. And when I first started talking about homelessness, it was this dark rock that was in my head, this thing about having nothing, having nothing and being homeless and stuff. And then when I started making jokes about it, and I wasn't belittling the subject at all, but I was joking about it, the way I describe it as flowers all of a sudden started growing on this rock, which is why I've now set myself a challenge of getting people to laugh at my suicide attempts, my first suicide attempt. And people do. The weird thing was I performed that in front of my family a few months ago.
Go on. You're laughing now, but go on. You must have been nervous as hell.
Yeah, it's the worst one I've done. This by far, it was the worst one I've done. Just speaking like technique wise and everything on that half, it was the worst one I've done. But also, I didn't know. For me, it was this huge thing in my head, like this big thing of shame. And I remember talking to it. All of a sudden, it got us talking about it again. And I spoke to my mum and my dad, and my dad said, "Oh, that thing. Oh, what when you like wrote those letters?" And I was like, "No, when I tried to kill myself." And he hadn't processed in his head. I still don't know where he fully has now. I was genuinely going to try. Like I was genuinely trying, and I had done afterwards as well a few times. But that blew my mind because to me, they were going around like, my son's tried to do this, and I'm not going to talk to him about it. But my dad never even thought it was a real thing. My aunt and uncle didn't know about it. The grand did know. My cousins didn't. So before the gig, I had to go around people's houses and say, by the way, you're coming to see my show. I just need to let you know what it's about. And I want you to know these things. And I was going around with this idea that, people were worried about me and the perception of how they'd seen me when half the family didn't know. So that was crazy for me.
Definitely. What about your sisters?
My sisters didn't come to see, and I've not spoken to them about it. Like, but they know because they were there, so they know fully. But another thing the police made me do as well is when the police took me home after they found me that day, they made me ring my grandparents up and apologize in front of them.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, man. So I know what it sounds like for my grandparents to cry. So yeah, that weren't great. But all of that, is the start. There's a few other bits as well, but that was the start of me just completely kind of losing it. Yeah. But I'm getting there now. I'm now on, this crash recently has knocked me back. I'm not going to lie. It really knocked my motivation and everything. But I've hit a turning point recently. It's been a year and a bit now. Hit a turning point. Things are looking up. I'm putting my effort into stuff again. And I'm also booked in for bariatric surgery. So I'm a big old boy. Body will start, I need an operation on my knee, operation on my back, booked in for bariatric surgery. But I'm understanding my brain a lot more now. And I'm really enjoying. The other day I did something I never thought I'd be able to do. Like when you're doing stand-up, your friend is the stage, and the distance between yourself and the audience and your microphone, you can get away and separate yourself. Whereas the other day, I turned up to this pub and nothing worked. So I just stood in the middle of this pub with a log fire, like leaning on this chair, and just spoke loudly like they would have done back in the day. I had the confidence to be like, and it went down really well. I had a guy earlier on, I was sitting down having a cup of tea in Newquay, and a builder came across the road. He was like, I was in the pub the other day and I saw you. You were hilarious. So there's a lot of good stuff going on.
Good. Tell me about therapy. How was that for you?
The first therapy was, I felt like I was getting absolutely nowhere. It was soon after that I ended up quitting drinking and drugs and stuff.
Isn't that interesting? You thought you were getting nowhere, but soon after, you quit drinking.
I was just ranting and raving, and all of a sudden, it all kind of made a bit more sense. But she was a student counsellor. She was in her last year of this course, and then she finished, and I couldn't afford to stay on, so they gave me this other person. No word of a lie. She was doing work on me in terms of attachment disorder, and she kept not turning up. Exactly. It's like how ridiculous is this? And also in Cornwall, it's not like you live in a city. It's like 20 minutes away. This is in Truro. This is an hour and 20 minutes one way.
Yeah.
So fucking annoying. So I ended up going back to see the other counsellor when I had my crash. Where I worked, they could see a marked difference in me as a person. They saw that I was extremely depressed. My motivation had been sapped. It was just like another thing, like it was a straw that broke the camel's back, and they paid for me to go to counselling. And they got me the same one. So I went back to see Tracy. And it's only recently, because I can't afford to carry on, that we've kind of stopped. But, say recently, theft, what's good now, but like, yeah, I noticed that I'm not talking to her. Like, I noticed it, but she has given me some tools to be able to get on with stuff a bit better. And I think we need to do it all the time. I remember talking to my friend. I've got some friends, some Icelandic friends, and one of them said to me, "You're funny, the English." I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You go to the gym when you've had a heart attack, and you go to a counsellor when you've had a breakdown. And like, you need to go to a counsellor all the time, and then go to the gym all the time beforehand to stop it." And it makes perfect sense now. But unfortunately, I'm the other side of I'm the other side of obesity and mental breakdowns. So, like, it's helping, but yeah, that horse is already bolted.
It's not irreversible, though.
No, for sure. Yeah, I know. I can definitely go and these things are temporary, and this is what, like, in terms of me having that companionship and stuff. I am after it. I know I'd be good, in that scenario. I'm, a lot better than I was mentally, but yeah, I've got the last few little bits. If something pops along in the meantime, wicked. But I'm not looking until I've got my last few steps done a little bit.
Kev,
I've got a little tick list.
can I ask, who's the most important person in your life?
Oh, that's a tricky one. The biggest effect I had on me was, I mean, my mum and dad goes without saying, but I had my granddad. He was big. He was massive. But he's not about anymore now. It's weird that you say that, because I don't think there is anyone, like, specifically, like my mum and dad, for sure. And there's a big guilt there, but they know about that because financially I've been screwed most of my life. Either been a bit of an addict, which I didn't really know about till afterwards, obviously, or just poor in general. And now, living in a caravan, not got much money, blah blah blah. I owed them money. That makes me feel guilty a little bit, but
Well, I would argue that they would rather you be alive,
yeah, for sure, yeah, like they
talking to them, than worrying about money.
yeah, for sure, a million percent. But I know, like, I know I've got it in me to be able to take that worry off them because they've got financial worries. I just can't do it at the moment. I'm just looking forward to being able to go. I mean, I don't think I'll ever be in a situation to be able to go, here's a house and here's a trip to the Bahamas, But to give them a bit back and give them a bit of financial slack, like,
And that will come in time.
yeah, eventually I'll get there. Like, after I'm a bit more fixed. But yeah, I don't really know.
What if I said the most important person in your life is you?
Yeah, I suppose.
You suppose?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's true. I just think a lot of the problems in the world are from people taking, like, I find if the most important person in the world is myself, then, which I get, and I'm not going to disagree with, but just in terms of devil's advocate, why all the best times in my life when I've looked after other people?
Maybe that's your purpose.
Yeah, I think so. I think it should be everyone's, really. I think that would get us out of a lot of this mess.
I wouldn't disagree with you on that.
Hmm.
You have that lived experience in terms of non-fatal suicides, etc.
Yeah.
So you know where the human consciousness can get to.
Yeah.
And how desperate it can be.
Oh, it's horrible. Awful. I remember going out with a girl when I was early 20s, and she, bless her, like, she had to put up with. That was at the point where I literally started, like, everything started falling away. And I remember I was so, like, losing my religion was such a big thing. Trying to get close to it, I tried to learn Aramaic, like the ancient language. Jesus and stuff. I remember being like we were at a party and everyone's kind of, socializing, and I'm there trying to learn Aramaic and stuff. Like I was not a well person, but I can't remember why was I talking about that?
We were talking about you having a purpose.
Yeah. So I remember. Oh yeah, the darkness. I remember being around her house. She was at university in Portsmouth, and I remember she was the one that I sent the message to, which was the suicide note, which wasn't directed at her. It was to everyone. It was just that she wasn't close. Everyone else was within a few miles away. So when I ended up putting the letters down, she got it via text. And I remember one time just before that, I was at hers, and I was sure that I saw the devil, that I heard the devil. And then when I closed my eyes, I just saw people hanging, like jumping with ropes on their neck off like staircases. Every time I closed my eyes, I could just see that. Everything just gore, horrible stuff the entire time, every time I closed my eyes. And we were just in a young relationship, like we were meant to basically just be kind of going out together and coming back and fondling each other and kind of waking up in the morning, going for a coffee and having a bit of fun and stuff. I was going through this, like, I don't know quite what it was, channeling some weird kind of darkness from somewhere. And yeah, like, it's not really, that was one of the, there's been points where it goes at the peak, but you kind of learn how to deal with it as you go around. Like your first heartbreak feels like it's, she was the one. Then your second one, you're like, well, second time lucky, you're sad when this one's gone, and then 5 or 6 in, it's still else, but you just go, oh, all right, well, I've been here before. It's the same with your heads. I think like depression in a weird way, is kind of heartbreak from yourself a little bit, and you kind of learn how to find yourself again,
Heartbreak from yourself.
Yeah.
So what's next for Kev Mud?
I need to sort out whatever this problem is. So my knee is killing me. I can't really walk anywhere. It's been a year of me not being able to walk anywhere, and living out here is an absolute nightmare with that, because I live here for a reason. It's like because I've got access to nature. I've not been able to do anything, not been in the sea for a year. But I want to start. Well, I touched on the fact that I made a collective when I was at uni, and I really like that. And instead of like chasing TV like most of the other comedians seem to be doing, I want to get some people together with a bit of a voice, not just comedians, but I want to set up a new collective, like a touring thing almost, like a bit political. Trying to get out there and get talking to people, If we want to talk about suicide, talk about it, including joking about it, like not doing it down or anything like that. Being very, respectful of the whole thing. And the same with like things like homelessness and poverty and identity and, talking about all these things, energize a few people. That's what I'm kind of after doing.
Good.
Yeah.
Have you got people around you?
The village are nice to me, but when I had my car crash, there was people coming up with like cooked dinners and things. But I've been like, since the crash, I've been isolating myself a lot, and I'm just kind of coming out of that.
Are you coming out of it? Because that feels like a little rabbit hole.
I need to, and I need to. It's been, especially out here. If you don't want to see anyone out here, it's very easy not to.
Absolutely, it is. And with that collective, that gives you a focus, a vision, a direction of being able to channel your energies.
Yeah, I met this person came up to see me in. Well, they didn't say he couldn't see me, but they saw me in Bristol the other week, and afterwards we were talking, and they were someone who had been arrested. They're an artist themselves, and they'd been arrested in just some of the Just Stop Oil protests. And that was really interesting, just talking about the story. And I was saying to her, like, but it's gonna it's interesting. How did you get around the fact that that's like permanent. And she's like, you kept trying to kill yourself. um, but yeah, and it was just interesting how we were both saying that at the moment, one of the big problems is we're going out and performing, but a lot of the time we're performing to people who have got money to burn. There are people who are going out and spending 10, 15, 20 quid on a stand-up night somewhere, and they're not the people I need to kind of, it's great talking to them, but like there's an impoverished section of the country that needs talking to and needs bringing together.
Why does the impoverished section need talking to? Because they already know there.
I think they need it energizing in some way, from what I've seen. Like, I think there's a lot of people who are sitting there and feeling like they're not part of a thing, and like almost like a unionization of people in a bit of a way. And so you're like getting things going. Rather than, just saying, look, these things exist, these movements are here. I'm going around and starting to energize movements in different areas. That's kind of what I want to do.
Okay, but the reality on that, we can have a separate discussion on all of that, but I would say the reality on that is, first and foremost, they want to be fed, clothed, have a roof, and they haven't got the energy for anything else.
No, for sure. I don't mean necessarily impoverished is probably not the right word in terms of that. Like, I don't necessarily, it's still people who have got, that is completely true, and I'm completely with you on that. But I just think, like, for example, there's a union at the moment that I'm doing some work with called Acorn, which is a housing union.
Okay.
And they do really good stuff for like people who are renters and stuff, and they're the people who are, pushing to get like the Grenfell cladding off things and work and dwellers' rights and things for people who are renting and stuff. And kind of one of the things I'm good at doing is going around with some stand-ups at different, like I think we picked up 4 or 5 cities, and we're going to just put a show on there just to basically let them know that Acorn exists. So get people to come and to let them know it exists. So a bit more of that kind of thing, like pulling forces together a little bit, like creating a day or two of kind of celebration and art and music and stuff. I don't quite know how to make it work.
What I'm hearing is that creation, that allyship.
Yeah.
But they're not alone, yeah.
And also I'm trying to put together a collective of people to kind of go up to the Edinburgh Fringe, but don't do the Edinburgh Fringe.
What's he thinking about that?
It's a completely ridiculous amount of money to be able to do any of that sort of stuff, and you haven't got to do it anymore anyway. It's like I don't think what they realise is just which directions that's going in. Like, you have these thousands of pounds just to try. I remember there being privy to a conversation between 2 big stand-ups. One's a lady called Callie Beaton, who's been on QI and stuff a fair few times, and there's another guy called Andrew Mensah, who's like a Black London act and very much of that culture. And she said to him, because they got the same agent, they were saying, like, are you going to go to Edinburgh or whatever? I don't know whether he did, but one of his points was, he said, my audience isn't up there. Like, my audience, they're not going to go. And he said, for 4 or 5 grand, you know what, I can go on Instagram for that. Like, in terms of like fans and followers and stuff. Like, I may honestly haven't left the seat. Like, I'm still in East London. Like, why would I go up there? And I think it's going to be it was always been quite bad, but it's so bad now. It's going to be so white, so stale, so narrow in terms of the voices moving forward. I want to go up there and go up with a different model. So I'm planning on going up. I've got my bar license, and I want to go up. And I've got a squat that I've been talking to people about. Very safe squat, been looked at and everything. So they've got basically free accommodation. We go up as a bit of a group, got a venue, we put a bar on in there, and then everyone does bar work and they do the performing on the stage, and we all take an equal share of everything after things have been paid for, like products and whatever. We all take an equal share. So you take home the money that, the thing has earned. In part of the thing, it's a completely nice split. So even if you go up there, you put a show on, and just because of luck, you're up against someone next door who's a big name and on at the same time as you. and you only sold, average of 10, 15 tickets instead of the 60 or 70 you need to break even, don't matter. You're still going back with your money. You've still made your art. You've still, put your story across to those 10, 15 people. That's another thing that's going on in my head at the moment.
Okay. That does sound great.
Yeah.
That's really, really. Would you come back on the Hurt Locker again?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Anytime.
I think there's so much there about you that we'd love to unpack.
Yeah. Yeah, feel free.
Kev, you've been an excellent guest in the Hurt Locker and really appreciate your openness, your candidness.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been good.
Thank you for your time. There is so much more to talk about, really. But yeah.
Thank you very much.
The Hurt Locker is a safe space for our guests to openly share their mental health experiences. If you have been affected by any of the content in this recording, then please reach out for support. If it is an emergency, dial 999. If you would like to talk to somebody today, then please call the Samaritans on 116 123. Stay safe. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Hurt Locker. Please give us a rating or share with another listener. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Hurt Locker Pod.